roach attack. For 5 years back in the 1970s, I did Mrs. Estelle Manning's weekly grocery shopping. In her late 80s, she was hampered by blurry vision and slow legs. My reward for my good deed was lunch, usually a cup of instant coffee and a bowl of canned soup, which I told her I liked boiling hot. "Soup's always best when it's steaming," I said. My real reason for saying that was the first time she fixed lunch for me, I spotted a roach swimming around in the chicken noodle soup. Mrs. Manning's kitchen swarmed with roaches, but her eyesight was so bad she couldn't see them. Now, I'm not a finicky eater, but if bugs get in my soup, I prefer them boiled. Along with the soup and coffee, she'd slice a hard-boiled egg in half, rest it on a bed of lettuce, and top it with a dollop of mayonnaise. As she placed the salad next to my soup, I'd go on the defensive. See, under the toaster on her kitchen table huddled a platoon of roaches, waiting for the right moment to charge my egg salad. Mrs. Manning had no idea how many roaches swarmed in her kitchen. She still prided herself on keeping a spotless house. Not wanting to burst her bubble, I never mentioned the roaches. This was not simply an act of kindness. I was afraid of being poisoned. One time, she felt a roach scurry over the back of her hand and sprayed insecticide all over her kitchen counter. I suggested she should probably wash all the dishes in the vicinity to make sure no poison was left on them. Later, when I got the chance, I slipped all the cans of bug spray I could find into my briefcase. If she ever got an inkling of how many roaches lived with her, I'm sure she'd have poisoned herself and possibly me. Bugs I could tolerate, but not poison. While I ate Mrs. Manning's lunch, the roaches would begin massing near the edge of the toaster, contemplating a charge on my egg salad. I'd wrap the handle of my spoon on the tabletop, and they'd retreat. One time, though, a scout snuck around my defenses and leaped into the glop of mayonnaise on the hard-boiled egg. He sunk slowly into the white blob, like a cowboy in quicksand. The more he moved, the deeper he sunk. Not wanting to embarrass Mrs. Manning, I simply scraped the mayonnaise along with the roach into my paper napkin when she wasn't looking and later deposited him in the garbage. The roaches in Mrs. Manning's kitchen were small, only about 1/4 of an inch long. But East Texas is also the home of 4-inch flying roaches, sometimes called palmetto bugs. Unless you're almost blind like Mrs. Manning, ordinary roaches can be kept under control with a combination of poison, boric acid, and those boxes filled with bait and glue called roach motels. But the big roaches are more difficult to control. They don't like to live indoors, thank goodness, but they do visit, especially during dry spells. One fall evening, I was lying in bed reading near an open window. I heard a strange noise, turned, and noticed my window screen wasn't fastened properly. Through a small opening between the edge of the screen and the window ledge, 4 giant roaches had entered. They leaped from the window ledge onto my mattress and began charging me. When roaches act like this, someone not from East Texas might assume that the critters are nasty and aggressive. Truth is, they're just stupid. This particular bunch was thirsty, found a way in, and ran for the sink. If they were smart, they'd know that most bedrooms don't have sinks. They'd also know not to charge a Texan. I immediately counterattacked, making fists and hammering each of the smelly bugs. Usually they don't smell too bad when they're alive, but after they've been squashed on a bedsheet, they stink. I scraped their remains into the garbage and put on clean sheets. Comanches and wolves no longer annoy Texans, but I doubt if roaches will ever make the endangered species list.